Hi, Team Gerwell. We are flipping in fifth with me, Mrs. G. Today we're going to be learning about something that I think is pretty exciting because it's kind of like learning different languages in math. Today we're going to be learning about Topic 3, Lesson 4, and our learning target is I will be able to use exponents to show repeated multiplication. Today's vocabulary is really important, so make sure that you pause the video so you can write down all of the drawings and all of the vocabulary. The first one is exponential notation. Say it with me. Ready? Exponential notation. That means using a base number and an exponent to show repeated multiplication of the base. In this instance, this is an example of exponential notation. We have one big number, which we call the base, and then a smaller number called the exponent, which is written next to it and up higher. It means the same exact thing as the repeated multiplication. So it would be 5 times itself 3 times. Not 5 times 3, that's a different thing. 5 times 5 times 5. So again, the base is the number to be multiplied against itself. This is the number we write. So the 5 is the base. Now exponent is the number that tells you how many times the base is multiplied by itself. So how many times to write the base number? That's our exponent. Again, go ahead and pause the video and make sure you have all of this written down in your notes. So let's go through an example. Basically, we are going to show 3 to the 5th power in 3 different ways. They're going to all look different, but they're going to mean the exact same thing. Kind of like if you wanted to say tree in Spanish, French, and German, okay? It's all going to mean tree, it's just going to look a little differently. So let's start off. First, exponential notation for 3 to the 5th would look like this. The base is a 3 with an exponent of a 5. 3 to the 5th. Expanded form would be, how many times are we going to see this in repeated multiplication? Well, we know our base number is 3, and we're going to multiply 3 times 3 5 times. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Not 3 times 5, but 3 times itself 5 times. So now we have to do a little math in order to find the standard form, okay? So we need to know, what is 3 times 3? Well, that's 9, and then I'm going to bring down times 3, because we have another times 3. 9 times 3 is 27. Bring down another times 3. That gets me 81 times 3, and 81 times 3 equals 243. 243 is the standard form of 3 to the 5th power. So 3 to the 5th is the same thing as 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is the same thing as 243. 3 to the 5th equals 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which equals 243. They're just all named something different. This is named the exponential notation. This is named expanded form, and this is named standard form. So they all look different, but they mean exactly the same thing. So let's practice. Write 4 to the 3rd in standard form. Well, the first thing we're going to have to do is write it in expanded form. So we know it's going to be 4 times 4 times 4 because the base is 4, and we're doing it times itself 3 times. So now we have to do some math to get to the standard form. 4 times 4 is 16. Bring down our multiplication sign, bring down our 4. So now we need to do 16 times 4. That equals 64. So 64 is standard form. So 4 to the 3rd is the same thing as 4 times 4 times 4, which is the same thing as 64. Okay, just called something different. Let's try another one. We're going to write 1 to the 10th in standard form. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure this one out on your own. I'll give you a little hint. you're going to want to use those properties of multiplication that we've been talking about, specifically the identity property. If you do that, you won't have to do any math. Okay, pause the video, see if you can write this in expanded form and standard form, and then come back and see if we have the same answers. Okay, time for the answer. Well, in expanded form, it would be 1 times 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 1. Because it's 1, which is the base, multiplied by itself 10 times, right? That's expanded form. So if we're going to go through and solve this, we could do 1 times 1 equals 1 times 1 equals 1. We could do this all the way through, right? But do we even need to do that if we know our properties of multiplication, specifically the identity property of multiplication? What does that tell us again? You only have one true identity, which means that anything multiplied by 1 is always that number, right? So 1 times 1 is 1. No matter if you multiply that a billion times or a trillion times or even a Google time, the answer is always going to be itself, which is 1. 1 is the standard form. It's kind of tricky on you. I hope you got that one right. So now you try. I want you to write the following in exponential notation, expanded form, and in standard form, and then come back for the answers, okay? Go ahead and pause the video now and come back. Okay, here come the answers in 3, 2, 1. I forgot to tell you to keep calm and show your work. Okay, number 1, 2 to the 5th power. If we're writing that in exponential notation, it's 2 as our base and 5 as our exponent, 2 to the 5th. In expanded form, it's written as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Now to get to standard form, we have to do the math. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2, which is 8, times 2, which is 16, and we need to bring down our last times 2, so 16 times 2 equals 32. So standard form would be 32. Make sure you write these little arrows because it will help you keep everything in line and make sure you're doing it the right amount of time. Okay, number 2, 3 to the 4th power. Exponential notation, it looks like this. 3 is your base, 4 is your exponent. Expanded form, we have repeated multiplication of 3 times 3 4 times, right? So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 equals 9. So let's bring down our next times 3. That's 9 times 3, and that's 27. We still have one more times 3 to bring down. You see why these arrows are helpful? Because you remember how many you have to do. And 27 times 3 equals 81. So the standard form is 81. And our last one, 0 to the 10th power, well, the exponential notation is going to look like 0 is the base, 10 is the exponent. You're multiplying 0 10 times, but you don't even need to do math to get the standard form because of our properties again. If you remember, the 0 property of multiplication tells you that 0 times any number, no matter if it's a billion, a gazillion, or a Google, will always be 0. So standard form is going to be 0. Okay? Before you go, make sure you've checked your work and you write how many you got correct. Be honest, this isn't for a grade, and this will honestly is, likely going to throw some people for a loop because we haven't seen exponents before. This is the first time we've seen them in our entire lives. So it's okay to be a little bit confused. So also honestly fill out the self-reflection. Could you teach a friend, or are you still confused? And fill in the spaces for any questions you have. Now, if you went through and you got 0 out of 5 or however many problems we had correct, I want you to go back and rewatch this video to see if you can watch it again and just pay attention this time and don't worry about the notes. Just pay attention and see if you can get it. Okay? All right, well, I can't wait to see you all tomorrow. Have a great night. Bye-bye.